Hi fellow farmers, Eamon here from Ashland Farm Retirement Programme. I started farming in the early 70s when I left school, along with my father, and it was a mixed dairy farm. And at that stage, we had just joined EEC, and it was a very, very exciting time. And I'm sure if I'm talking to people of my own age group, can certainly remember the 70s and all the excitement that was got to do with joining the EEC at the time. We came through a very, very poor cattle price and were dependent on probably the UK to buy most of our progeny. And the view was at the time here in Ireland that there was a market out there in Europe and maybe more globally, and that we should be able to play on that market. And we're certainly a very small, poor, underdeveloped country at that stage, and particularly agriculture was quite underdeveloped. And we look at where agriculture was at that time and where it is today, it is probably 10 lifetimes away. So I started farming into that system of poor prices, and then just after joining the EEC, and then more supports and grants and that came in, and we started developing our farm and became modernising it. And I suppose a word came into our vocabulary that time was specialisation, and you're going to specialise in a particular area. That time, most farms that time was mixed farms, beef and dry stock, and maybe sheep, pigs, dairy, and bit of cereal, the whole lot. And it started then specialising either in beef or in dairy and all the rest. And we went down the road of specialising mainly in dairy, and probably my father was very fond of dry stock cattle, so we kept some of those cattle as well. But look, we started developing the farm. In 81, I got married to Mary, and shortly after that, my father handed the farm over to me. And we'll talk about that later on. And I farmed along, probably basically along my father for the first couple of years, and then he got older and probably into not as good a health, and I ended up farming it myself for a long number of years, and being involved that time in rearing my 4 children as well, and involved in their hobbies and their lives as well, which is very, very important. And at the same time, I got involved in farming organisations, IFA, and I was quite involved in that, and ended up being involved at national level. I was county chair in Westmeath IFA. I was FMP chairman, Liquid Milk chairman. I was on national council, and a lot of other boards at the time as well. So I probably, for the want of a better word, I got around. I got a lot of experience, talked to a lot of farmers, always been involved in farming, and always willing. Maybe my attitude in life was to help fellow farmers, and by helping fellow farmers, you probably end up helping yourself. But I wanted to always to make a contribution to help and represent fellow farmers, and at the same time, I had to run my own dairy farm, and as I say, make sure to look after my 4 children and educate them and do the best for them. And my eldest son, Kenneth, who qualified as physiotherapist, he wanted to do veterinary at the time, and the year that Leaving Cert came out, he was 5 points short of veterinary, and his second choice was physiotherapy, and he didn't want to repeat the Leaving Cert again, and he certainly wasn't willing that time to go outside the country to do veterinary, but he decided to do physiotherapy, and it would work along with the dairy farm, which he qualified, and eventually he came back then after, in his mid-20s, to come back to work the farm with me. And I suppose in those early years when he came back, we had a recession in Ireland at the time. It was 08 and 9 at the time, and Ireland was probably going through a bad patch, and along with that, the year 9 was a very, very bad year, and poor prices. And along with that, following on with the year 2011 was a very, very bad year as well. So we had very, very challenging times, and I certainly would have questioned him on numerous occasions. Was that the right decision to make? Was he not better off? But all his classmates and that was all over the world. They were in Australia, Canada. Some of them was doing physiotherapy, some of them was doing others. There was no jobs in Ireland. But anyways, we got down, and Kenneth said to me one day, having probably a little bit of a heated argument with him. He said and I don't like using the language, but he used the F word, and said, I want to farm, I love farming, it's in my blood, it's in my heart, I want to do it. And said I'm going to do it with or without you. So that was a very, very definite, very, very strong message. So I realised this was a man that wanted to do farming. I went through 40 or 50 years at this stage farming, through good years and bad years. So I knew with that commitment that we could work together and get through whatever difficulties farming threw to us. And I continued on. We got knuckled in at that stage then, and we looked at our farming practice. We looked at the type of cows we had. We looked at the amount of money we had borrowed, the liabilities that we had, and we started working and changing the farming system at that stage, with probably very high-bred pedigree cows at the time. And even in the year 13, at that stage we were milking the cows 3 times a day, trying to get as much milk out of them as humanly possible, and feeding a lot of meal to them. And our cost was very, very high. So we realised we weren't making a decent profit, and weren't making very much profit at that stage. So we started looking at very high, changing our system and going into breeding very high EBIs. And we worked very hard for those years on changing them, and we set out a strategy and a plan on how we're going to implement it. That we're going to do it over 5 or 6 years' time. And we decided that we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to lose milk, too much milk in the beginning, that we were going to improve the fat and protein. We had fertility problems with 3 or 4 different angles. So we set out a strategy and studied the whole EBI situation very well. And we ended up today with a very, very high EBI herd of cows. So we built up, it's well producing liquid milk, and that is milk for the table, and that was all year round system. Now over the last 4 or 5 years, we weren't particularly happy with the margin of profit in liquid milk, and we're looking at exiting that. But we did not want to exit that until we had our fertility in our cows up high. So we changed that. But the moral of the story is, if you have the passion like what Kenneth had, and that day we had that probably a row or a debate or an argument over the farm, he put it very, very clearly that he wanted to effing farm with or without you. And I think that was a very, very strong message. And I think we probably need that passion in life to make a success of no matter what you're doing, whether it's nursing or veterinary or farming, or you need that passion. You need that for F's sake. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to put my heart and soul into it.
Under the sky so wide, fields of green where dreams reside, with calloused hands and pride. Father, I'm here by your side. With or without, I'll stay. Morning light guides my way through the toil and the hay. Here in this land I'll play, heart and soul in every seed. This is my home indeed. Farming's my chosen creed. Father, I've got what we need. Through the seasons we will roam, on this farm forever home. Rain or shine, we'll never mow. Hard work built this ancient dome. Echoes in the wind so still. Farmer's life, a simple thrill. Mountain song and the hill. In my veins it's flowing still. Heart and soul in every seed. This is my home indeed. Farming's my chosen creed. Father, I've got what we need.
And is there many them supposed to be?
Five items. There's only one surprise. Was the white parade.
What do you mean surprise?
I didn't know see them. That's not
But the other 4 is ones that you knew weren't in the cat.
yeah, I was just making
Making sure.